Gather around the table once again for another session of Dungeons and Drakfus. And today, people might notice we're not in Outland. Yes, I was able to do my tests, and it turns out that we will be okay to step foot into the classic WoW raids. Now, there is a couple of things I need to clarify with that. A few of those raids, like Upper Blackrock Spire, have since been moved to other content. So unfortunately, we won't be able to take them on until that content. So, for example, at the very end of Classic WoW, there was a 40-man version of the Necropolis Naxxramas. But that was since moved to Northrend and actually became part of the first raid tier of Wrath of the Lich King. So we will be tackling it at that point. Another example is one of the starting raids that a lot of people did for Classic WoW was Onyxia's Lair. Unfortunately, that has since been retooled as an anniversary for World of Warcraft during Wrath of the Lich King. So we'll be taking care of that in that amount of time. But there's still a couple of other classic raids that we can take on that don't necessarily hurt the story here. And obviously with Onyxia, like we've covered a little bit of her, but we'll cover her a little bit more in detail when we get there. But today we're going to be setting foot in the starting raid of World of Warcraft, and that is the Molten Core. So here's the downside, and I'm actually going to show you guys. The description that actually is given in the Dungeon Journal kind of sucks with Classic World of Warcraft, because if you go into Molten Core, you get nothing. You get loot and no descriptions of the bosses. Thankfully, though, we have sites like Wowpedia, where I'm actually able to get some passages to be able to give you the lore so that we can stay true to the Dungeons and Drakfus formula. So let's go ahead and do this. We're stepping into the Molten Core. What is the history of the Molten Core? The Molten Core was created during the War of the Three Hammers more than 300 years ago. Near the end of the war, Thaurazan, the leader of the Dark Iron Dwarves, sought to summon a powerful fire elemental to defeat the combined forces of the Bronzebeard and the Wildhammer clans. He was more successful than he would have imagined, as he released Ragnaros the Fire Lord from millennia of captivity under the Red Ridge Mountains. Ragnaros destroyed the city of Thaurazan and created the volcano of Blackrock Mountain. He dwells there to this day with his elemental servants and the enslaved remnants of the Dark Iron Dwarf clan. The burning lake where Ragnaros lies sleeping acts as a rift connecting to the plane of fire, allowing the malicious elementals to pass through. Now, I actually also want to read this from Blizzard's official World Dungeons site, because it also does tell us a little bit more. The Molten Core lies at the very bottom of Blackrock Depths. It is the heart of Blackrock Mountain, and the exact spot where, long ago, in a desperate bid to turn the tide of the Dwarven Civil War, Emperor Thaurazan summoned the elemental Fire Lord Ragnaros into the world. Though the Fire Lord is incapable of straying far from the blazing core, it is believed that his elemental minions command the Dark Iron Dwarves, who are in the midst of creating armies out of living stone. The burning lake where Ragnaros lies sleeping acts as a rift connecting to the plane of fire, allowing the malicious elementals to pass through. Chief among Ragnaros' agents is Major Domo Executus, for this cunning elemental is the only one capable of calling the Fire Lord from his slumber. So basically our overall goal in there is to stop Ragnaros, but in order to get to him, we need to get access to Major Domo Executus. So let's go ahead and get things started, and then we'll also go over the boss backgrounds, because with raids comes more bosses. So I'm already gonna warn people in advance. These Dungeons and Drakfus episodes are going to be longer because they're raids, and raids have lots more bosses than regular dungeons. So with that, keep that in mind. Also, a lot of the trash I might also try and skip as much of it as I can. But here we are. Welcome to the Molten Core. So I've already kind of explained this in the Blackrock Depths and Blackrock Spire videos, but yeah. One of the big things that players were dealing with in Classic World of Warcraft was the war that was happening in Blackrock Mountain. On the lower end was the Dark Iron Dwarves mixed with the Fire Elementals led by Ragnaros. And then at the top end, you had the Blackrock Orcs of the False Horde being led by the Black Dragon Nefarian. So we already had like a big conflict in here, but we needed to take care of it from both sides. And we start with the Molten Core, because Ragnaros the Fire Lord poses a little bit more of a threat, or so we think, than Nefarian does. So let's just go ahead and go in here, and you might notice that I'm also getting rep in here. Most raids will have some kind of a rep faction. They are starting to lean away from that in current raids. So, like, for example, Emerald Nightmare doesn't necessarily have a faction. Maybe it's the Dreamweavers, but that's a more generalized one. Okay, but back in the day, there was, like, specific factions that you had to gain rep for in order to gain benefits for either your raid guild or for yourself. And we are going into the Magmadar Cavern, but our first boss isn't Magmadar. First of all, we need to take care of these guys. These guys are a pain, because if you do not kill them within like a minute of each other, they will respawn, or they'll rise up again. And it's a big problem to handle, so I will kind of wait here. I'm excited to bring you guys raid content, because it is, in my opinion, one of the greatest bits of polish that World of Warcraft has to this day. And it's amazing to be able to bring this to you guys. Let's go ahead and bring these guys together. Make sure that they die. And then we also have our first boss, but you might notice he's a little interesting. He's not necessarily a fire elemental. Actually, he is. He's what's called a flame walker. So he has a lot of similarities to the Naga model, but he's actually a flame walker, a servant of Ragnaros. And this in particular, Luciferon, is actually one of the main generals of the Flame Walkers. And here is his lore, according to Wowpedia. Among the ranks of the Flame Walkers, overseers, and guards constantly jockey for higher status among the hierarchy of elementals in hopes of gaining favor with Ragnaros. Luciferon is no exception. He has clashed with Gehennis on several occasions, particularly during their incarceration within the elemental plane. This rivalry is now extended to the Molten Core, where Luciferon quietly waits for his opportunity to capitalize on any weakness shown by the other Flame Walkers. Luciferon and his two Flamewalker Protector guards can be found watching over the enormous Corehound Magmadar, favored pet of Ragnaros. And so there you go. That is the lore of Luciferon. Gee, it's almost like he shares a name with somebody else. I don't know. I'll take care of him. Boom! Now, I'm going to be a little picky with the loot in here, because here's the thing. We will walk away with a bunch of stuff, and most of which we might not necessarily... Well, let's see how much we actually walk away with. There we go. So here's the other thing, too, with raids. You also get some of the best-looking raid gear in the game, including the tier items, which are basically class-only items that celebrate the lore and the allure of that class. So in particular, we have the Cenarian boots that are more for a druid, which would fit more into their class flavor and their look and their lore. So let's go ahead and kill these guys. There we go. And here is our next target, the Corehound Magmadar. Let's go ahead and look into his lore, his background. Oh, and so let's see. Here we go. So if you're ready, a terrifying behemoth composed of igneous rock and roiling magma. Magmadar serves as the origin of the Corehounds that roams the earthen halls of the Molten Core. Favored among Ragnaros' pets, Magmadar is protected by the Flamewalker Luciferon and surrounded by vicious packs of ravenous hounds. It is said that while Ragnaros was imprisoned in the elemental plane, the Fire Lord would feed the remains of his captured enemies to the eagerly awaiting twin maws of Magmadar. As a result, the hound grew strong and loyal. Even now, Magmadar's savage ferocity remains uncontested. Magmadar is the alpha male of all Corehounds. So let's go ahead and take care of Magmadar. Hi, buddy. Face of Fury! And we got some things here. So we got Eskandar's Right Claw, as well as Giant Stalker and Night Slayer, so that would be Rogue and Hunter. And now people just run this for Transmog, but still the lore is pretty amazing. Now people might have also noticed there was this little rune that was glowing right next to Magmadar. Back in the day, when you were doing this classic, you actually had to use an item called Aquil Quintessence to be able to extinguish these runes. And when you extinguish them all, Majordomo Executus would appear. Now they've since removed that because it was part of the rep that is central to the Molten Core, the Hydraxian Waterlords. You had to go and get that. You had to go get that from them after you hit, I think it was Friendly or Honored, and you only got one charge. So, like, out of a 40-man raid, at least 12 people had to be there, I believe. 12 people with their Aqua Quintessence, but usually that didn't happen. And you had to wait to Exalted to get a permanent one that never extinguished, like, that you didn't have to go refill. So that was kind of a pain back in Classic WoW raiding, but I actually think it adds to the flavor of it. Is, you know, the Hydraxian Waterlords are trying to help you out with it, and for those who actually wanted to do the lore, I don't think it was that hard or that much of a daunting task for them to do it, because some role players just want to get into the story. I'm coughing really bad for some reason, I'm not sure why. Alright, so now that we've taken care of Magmadar's Cavern, it's back out into the main core, where we will take on the next boss of the Molten Core. So yeah, this was kind of the entry raid for a lot of WoW guilds. I know a lot of WoW guilds in later vanilla were instead starting people off in like Onyxia's Lair, and then eventually moving them into the Molten Core, because at that point you already had upper tier gear that people could grab. They didn't necessarily need to go into the Molten Core to get good pieces, unless you wanted like a particular set bonus. And to those who are already probably going to ask that haven't been in the classic scene, like, are there multiple sets for the various specs? No. Back in the day, if you haven't seen like one of Preach Gaming's videos on this, a lot of specs were just not viable. To give you kind of a perfect example, the only tank was a warrior. But wait, there was Protection Paladin and Feral Druid. They were horrible. They were horribly built. In fact, being a cat druid was almost kind of an insult in your raid. A lot of druids went restoration at that time, and if they did go DPS, I believe it was I think it was cat more than balance, but most of the time they were brought in to heal. Another example would be shamans. Shamans were usually brought in to heal because elemental and enhancement. No idea what they were doing with that. Priests were, I believe, holy. And then Discipline and Shadow were horribly broken in the classic days. It's a long line, but I mean, compared to the diversity that there is in Classic WoW now, there wasn't back in Classic. And so I'm really glad that has since changed. Now we're actually at the next boss, which is Gehennis. You might remember that he got mentioned with Luciferon. So here's his background. Gehennis and his fellow Flamewalkers were extricated from the elemental plane by Ragnaros shortly after Thaurazan accidentally summoned the Fire Lord. Unlike the fire elementals, who are beings of pure flame, the Flamewalkers are elementals composed of flesh and blood. Gehennis resides near the bottom of the Fire Lord's elemental hierarchy and covets the power and station of his superiors. He is distrusted by all who serve him, with the exception of his 2 loyal guards, who believe they might gain favor from their overseer's ascension. Alright, so let's go ahead and take care of Gehennis. And you guys will actually be able to see this, the rune dissipate. So, boom, there you go. And we get, let's see, Lawbringer, that would be Paladin, and Might, that would be Warrior. And it was just random items, so like it wasn't like this today where you would get like a shoulder token and it's everybody's shoulder token. It was, you might get the boots of Warrior, but then you get the shoulders or the gloves of a Paladin from specific bosses. Now we're actually coming across an interesting boss. Oh no. Well, I guess these guys want to take me out, and that didn't work out so well for them. This is an interesting boss because he has a little bit of not only lore to him, but a very unique item. And I'm not sure if it's going to drop for me, but I'm just going to go ahead and warn you guys in advance. It might, and then I'm going to freak out on camera. So the next one is Gar. Let's see, do we have a background? Yes. Gar is described as one of the lieutenants of Ragnaros who accompanied the Fire Lord into Azeroth during the War of the Three Hammers. He carried out the betrayal of Lord Thunderon, the Prince of Air, and otherwise referred to as the Windseeker, during the Elemental Sundering. Ragnaros sought to consume Thunderon, and did so by having his 2 lieutenants, Baron Geddon... Oh, come on, Mr. Corehound. Seriously. and did so by having his two lieutenants, Baron Geddon and Gar, ambush him. Thunderon, caught off guard, was utterly destroyed. Ragnaros almost completely consumed Thunderon's essence, and stored the rest within a talisman of elemental binding. Ragnaros cleaved this talisman into 2 equal pieces, to which he assigned Baron Geddon and Gar. As one of the 2 chief lieutenants serving under Ragnaros, Gar plays a key role in the current success of the Fire Lord and his spreading influence. Gar, like Baron Geddon, holds half of the bindings of the Windseeker, which contains the remaining essence of Thunderon, Prince of Air. Tales say that after centuries of partnership, Geddon became suspicious of Gar and felt the elementals sought both halves of the talisman. Thus, relations between the 2 powers are strained. Both Gar and Baron Geddon draw their considerable might from the blazing runes carved deep in the floor of the Molten Core. So all we gotta do is take care of Gar and all of his little Earth Elemental minions. Not that hard. Oh no! He be enraged. And there we go. Yep. No binding in the Windseeker. So you could technically... for specific classes, but it drops for everybody. He has an occasional legendary drop called the Binding in the Windseeker, where if you can get his binding as well as the one from Baron Geddon, you could engage in the quest to obtain the legendary weapon Thunder Fury, Blessed Blade of the Windseeker. Before somebody actually puts that in my comments, I have now officially said it. Leave me alone. Which was actually really great for tanks back in the day. Now you just occasionally see rogues walking around with it, and it's like, hey. Let's see, what did we have? We had the Earth Fury helmet, which would be Shaman, and Deep Earth Spalders, I believe that's just a random shoulder. So, here we go. We're in the next step of the Molten Core. And actually, the next boss that we're going to be taking on is Baron Geddon. So let's go ahead and clear some area so that we can take him on. And I'm going to get out of the way, because we're going to let him patrol while we go over the lore of Baron Geddon. So here we go. The background on him is... When Ragnaros was ripped from the elemental plane by the sorcerer Thane Thaurozan, several subjects from the Fire Lords followed in his wake. Baron Geddon fought against the Titans and aided in the betrayal of Thunderon, Prince of Air. The Fire Lord devoured the essence of the prince, but was unable to consume him entirely. Thus the remaining energies were trapped within a talisman of elemental binding, which Ragnaros split into 2 perfect halves, which he gave to his 2 lieutenants. Rumor has it that Executus supplanted Baron Geddon, and the 2 have been rivals ever since. Although this rumor has yet to be confirmed, there is certainly no doubt that Ragnaros does not tolerate failure. Thus the lesser Flamewalkers, and of course Baron Geddon, eagerly awaited a misstep by Executus, anticipating their chance to vie for the coveted attention of the Fire Lord. Alright, and that's pretty much like the rough lore of Baron Geddon. The rest kind of goes in the other details of him. This is an interesting fight, because back in the day, if you didn't have a boss mod to be able to tell this stuff, then you got blowed up, because he likes to make you bombs. Thankfully, though, I'm a conscious player. And he is dead, so I don't have to worry about it. And still, no other Binding in the Windseeker. But we did get the Cenarian Spalder, so another Druid item. And then also we have Shazra, who is yet another Flamewalker, so let's go into the lore of Shazra. One of all the Flamewalkers who followed Ragnaros into the world of Azeroth, Shazra is the most talented in the realm of the arcane. He is aware that his colleague Baron Geddon suspects the elemental Gar of treachery. The conflict between Baron Geddon and Gar suits Shazra well, for in fact it is Shazra who seeks to possess both halves of the talisman of elemental binding, so that he might find a way to siphon its energies for his own use. Ragnaros was very likely aware of this underling's penchant for duplicity when he split the talisman in half and entrusted the pieces to Baron Geddon and Gar. So basically he's a Flamewalker, but also utilizes arcane energy. So he will have like mage abilities. And there we go. We have Arcanist, which is actually a mage item, and Prophecy, which is priest. I already know some other people are going to be screaming, it's like, I've been trying to get that as transmog for years now, and you got it in your playthrough, and you can't even use it. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to create problems. I'm just doing the lore, man. I'm just doing it. Okay, so the next boss that we have Now, people might notice this rune is actually extinguished. I believe this is the one that's bound to Baron Geddon. But down here is the next boss that we have in the Molten Core, which is Golemag the Incinerator. There is another one, but we'll take care of him in the next little bit. And actually, just to be safe, I'm going to take care of this Core Hound so that he doesn't attack me. Alright, so Golemag the Incinerator. The most feared soldiers of Ragnaros' elemental forces are the Molten Giants, and among them Golemag the Incinerator is unrivaled for his sheer brutality and savage efficiency. So absolute is the Molten Behemoth's power that he has cowed two core ragers, offspring of the colossal beast Magmadar, which he now uses as pets. For this affront, he has earned Magmadar's eternal and unwavering ire, although the fearsome creature has yet to act on his savage impulses. Alright, so these are actually the 2 core ragers that he's talking about, and it's actually kind of pointless to attack them. All we gotta do is take care of Golemag, and then we're good. Boom. And there you go, they die. And we also got the pet, so that's awesome too. Sulfur and Ignet. We also got Lawbringer, which is Paladin, Prophecy Priest, and the Asher Song Mageblade, which, if I remember correctly, yeah, it's pretty good looking. There we go. Now, believe it or not, we're actually near the end of the Molten Core. This is actually not taking as long as I thought it would. Molten Core is a long area, and unfortunately takes a while to get through, especially since a lot of the really good transmog loot is on Ragnaros. So, in order to get to Ragnaros, you've got to go through the whole instance. Alright, so the next major boss that we're going to be taking on is the Sulfuran Harbinger, I believe. Yes, because he's over here. He's one of the last Flame Walkers. This didn't work out for you, buddy. Hey, look, another Lava Surger. Yeah, get used to fire. Fire is kind of a major theme, especially with some of the WoW raids that happened at the beginning, because most of the raiding was done in Blackrock Mountain. Okay, so the next one is the Sulfuran Harbinger. Let's go ahead and cover his lore. Crap, I have to bring this up all the time, and it's kind of frustrating. There we go. Among the most favored of the Flame Walkers, Sulfuran Harbinger is the terrifying herald of Ragnaros himself. From the infernal depths of the Molten Core, the Harbinger commands Ambassador Flamelash and the other lesser Flame Walkers in the outside world. Sulfuran Harbinger answers only to Executus and guards the Rune of Koro, one of several runes that empower the Fire Lord's servants. Sulfuran Harbinger keeps Shazra in particular under close watch, believing that Shazra seeks to betray Ragnaros. Flanked by 4 of the Fire Lord's most fervent priests, the Harbinger prepares for the day when the Elemental Lord of Fire claims the world of Azeroth for his own. And these are the priests that they're talking about, so your priority at that point was to kill his healers so that you could take him out. Which at that point, that's really easy for us to do. There we go, Night Slayer. We got some Rogue shoulder pads and Shadow Strike, which I'm guessing is a dagger? No, it's a polearm. Ooh, a good-looking polearm, too. That's pretty snazzy. Oh, I probably better take care of this Fire Lord. Is it Ragnaros? No, it's not. Okay, so we have taken care of all of the other bosses, and thus have unlocked Major Domo Executus. So all we have to do is scale this last little bit to confront the Major Domo himself. The Major Domo of Ragnaros, the Fire Lord. And I'm just going to apologize in advance. If things are lagging, it's just because I have to have the Wowpedia article up. Because unfortunately, that lore is not in the game. Blizzard, you might want to fix that. So here we are, Major Domo Executus. So the lore for him is Wow, there's lots. We'll try and sum up as best we can. At the top of the elemental hierarchy, just beneath Ragnaros himself, resides Majordomo Executus. This Flamewalker gained his exalted status by proving to be nearly invincible in the battles that raged within the elemental plane. Rumor has it that Executus supplanted Baron Geddon, and the two have been rivals ever since. Although this rumor has yet to be confirmed, there is certainly no doubt that Ragnaros does not tolerate failure. Thus the lesser Flamewalkers, and of course Baron Geddon, eagerly await a misstep by Executus, anticipating their chance to vie for the coveted attention of the Fire Lord. Executus, so this is just going into the details. So yeah, basically what you have to do is, Executus is kind of a bonus guy in this fight. You have to take care of his Flamewalker elite and healers, and then eventually he'll coward out. And then you'll be getting to face the Fire Lord. Yay! Let's just go ahead and kill you guys. There we go.
Impossible. Stay your attack, mortals. I submit. I submit. Brashly, you have come to wrest the secrets of the living flame. You will soon regret the recklessness of your quest.
Not sure if you guys can hear that, but it's awesome.
Summon the Lord whose house this is. Should you seek an audience with him, your paltry lives will surely be forfeit. Nevertheless, seek out his lair if you dare.
So there you go. He teleports off to where Ragnaros spawns, and we get... He actually doesn't give you any tier gear. All of the tier 1 gear has since dropped. Ragnaros is cool because he actually drops some tier 2 gear. So that's why I was saying, like, some people have to constantly farm Ragnaros because they want their tier 2, which is, in my opinion, one of the better sets overall for every class in the game. It's very sought after. I mean, in some cases it has some of the best looking sets that... For example, Paladin, Mage, I like that set in particular. A lot of Hunters like the Tier 2 that came out of that. I'm not necessarily with them on that. I actually like the Tier 13 that came later. Oh, and we got the Arcanist belt because it's a trash drop for Mages. Oh, crap. I'm low enough level that these things will randomly attack me. And it's pointless for them to do so, because I will kick their butts! So basically what you have to do is work your way all the way back to close to where Magmadar is. And then we can take on the Fire Lord himself. So bear with me while I make our way there. So yeah, this is classic raiding back in the day. Like, we had these big areas to be able to explore. Not necessarily like teleportation pads. You kind of had to hot-foot it through most of the instance, which is annoying to some, but I like the classic feel of it. I like the fact that they were just looking to make an epic area. They didn't necessarily think to make things easier for the player. You know, this was more to just give you an enveloping experience. Oh, too many prisms, man. Just so many things in here are going to aggro to me. Okay, so here's our little detour to Ragnaros' lair. Here's hoping I don't get the lava surgers. No, I did. Because why not? There we go. And here we are. So I'm just going to let that sink in for a second. Just look at this room. It's amazing. You can even see the runes that we've been seeing throughout the Molten Core. They're etched on the walls. And even better, you have the swirling path to be able to make your way to Majordomo Executus. I, however, am lazy, and I'm not going to worry about that. So if people wanted me to make that classic walk, well, go do it yourself. It's an amazing one. Oh, come on. There we go. So we are now at Majordomo Executus. The Fire Lord and his brethren once held sway over this entire world, mortal. As a servant of the old gods, he fought against the Titans for domination of this planet. The victorious Titans banished my master and his brethren to the elemental plane, there to remain imprisoned until the end of time. Now, before we go any further, I'm actually going to do the lore of Ragnaros now, because this whole event is just If you've never seen it, you should in the game. So Ragnaros. Let's see. Do we have a background on him? Not really. So the best way that I can actually... Oh, here we go. Character biography. There we go. Ragnaros the Fire Lord was an incredibly powerful elemental lord and master of all fire elementals. He ruled for more than 300 years over his minions from deep inside the fiery core of Blackrock Mountain. After being banished back to the Firelands, he aligned himself... Oh, that's going further. We're not going to worry about that stuff, but yeah. So... we do get a little bit more background. Basically, Ragnaros the Fire Lord was a prime problem, like we've heard numerous times. In the War of the Three Hammers, he was accidentally summoned by Lord Tharazan to take care of his enemies, and instead he subjugated the Dark Iron Dwarves to his liking. And since then, he has been building up power to be able to emerge once again and to take over Azeroth with his fire elemental armies. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get into the encounter of Ragnaros. And in the meantime, I know that's not a whole lot of lore, but I'll also put a novel video for Ragnaros. He goes into more depth there, so you guys can check that out. It's a two-parter thing, so I'll only put the first part, but because I hate to spoil this, but we will see Ragnaros again. So tell me more, Major Domo. A mere 300 years ago, a reckless dwarf named Tharazan summoned the Master from his fiery realm. He returned to this paltry world, devastated, and his return to this paltry world devastated the surrounding lands and created this volcanic core. Mighty Ragnaros has slept under this mountain ever since. What else do you have to say? We, his sworn servants, do his bidding and enforce his iron rule. Cut off from the energies of his fiery realm, Ragnaros is but a shadow of his true self. However, he has more than enough strength to be your end. You have challenged us, and we have come. Where is this master you speak of, fool? Very well, Drakfu. Is he actually going to say it? I don't know. He may not say this part. Impudent whelps, you've rushed headlong to your own deaths. See now, the Master stirs.
Fire Lord, he who was ancient when this world was young. Bow before him.
Oh boy,
Bow.
that's not good.
You have awakened me too soon.
There you go. You guys can now see this.
What is the meaning of this intrusion? These mortal infidels, my lord. They have invaded your sanctum and seek to steal your secrets. Fool. You allowed these insects to run rampant through the hallowed core. Now you lead them to my very lair?
Oh, by the way, hi, Chris Benson.
Me, Executus. Justice shall be met.
Oh no, Executus! You lived only like 5 seconds. Man, wished I could have killed you.
Insects. Boldly you sought the power.
Oh, you want to take me on? Okay, that's fine. Fist of Fury! Boom! Boom! And there we go. We have taken down Ragnaros the Fire Lord. Not really, though. Like Executus said, this is a shadow of his former self, or a shadow of himself. His true power resides within the Firelands, which we will take on eventually. So let's go ahead and check out the loot, because it's always awesome to check it out. Oh no, I actually hit a inventory cap. So we had 2 Netherwind Pantses, so that would be awesome for mages, and I can already see the mages are going, no! And that's actually the end of the Molten Core. So thank you guys so much for watching. This is the first of many raids that we're going to take on, as well as dungeons. And when we get back for the next session of Dungeons and Drakfus, we'll be going to the upper half of Blackrock Mountain to take care of the Black Dragon Nefarian. Till next time.